Hello, Tony here from Lightwave Digital. Today we're going to be looking at the new displacement brush in Lightwave 2025. So I've got this basic plane here, so nothing special, and it's unsubpatched, and all I've done in Modeler is make the plane and triple it, so we've got this. Once you've done that, what you need to do is make sure the actual object you're going to use the displacement brush on is selected, and then under modify, if you go down to tools and at the bottom there's a displacement brush. So if it's not there for any reason, go to edit menu layout, in the search option start typing in displacement, and what you'll get is a list of stuff coming up, and under the tools option here, look, you'll see displacement tool. Drag and drop it under the tools here, look, like I've done there. So you're literally just grabbing it and pulling it over and it will be there. Once you've selected your object, you click displacement and it will come up like this. So let's just start looking at the first tab, which is the edit tab. So at the top here you've got maps, and you've got two options. You've got a new plugin map that we're doing now, and you've got the morph map. You can create more if you want at the bottom here, or delete, remove, you can rename, you can save the transformed object and invert the selection. So next you've got tools, so you've got move, rotate, stretch, push, pull, groove in, press, smooth, and then you've got clear. Underneath that you've got the fall off. So if anyone's unsure about fall off, so in 3D terms it kind of refers to the gradual reduction of an effect. So like a light or an influence as a distance from its source increases. So it may be to simulate how things in the real world diminish in strength or impact as they go further away. So commonly used, these are kind of done for light, so where lights fade over distance, or you can apply them to other effects to influence. You can also, if you think about the brushes and sculpting and painting, it's that kind of thing as well. So for instance, we're on linear here. If I switch to ease in, ease out, you've got smooth and you've got flat, but you can manipulate how it looks yourself. If you see the changes, look, you can see them changing, and this is how it kind of will look when you kind of sculpt into it. So if I just move from the move tool to say push and pull, and you can see here there's lots of little white kind of dots. So these here are kind of your points, and you see where it says marker, that determines how big you're going to see. So I mean, I'm leaving it as default as 3, but then if I with my mouse, if I right mouse click and pull side to side, this is changing. If you look at the brush size in the control panel, it's changing the way the actual size of the brush is. So let's say I make it this size, and then left mouse, if I click and just go round like so, you can see it's dug into this actual area by 100 mil. So that's the strength, 100 mil. Now you can change this. So if I just undo that, Control Z, or you've got to undo and redo here. If I put this to say minus 100 mil, size my brush and do it again, it obviously does it the opposite way. Now let me put it back to 100 millimeters, and again let's just draw a ditch here like so, as you can see. So again, you can change the fall off, and you can play around with the height as well if you want. Now using your keyboard, now currently with the height, obviously currently when it's digging in, but if you hold shift down, that's the shortcut to invert it, so it kind of makes it kind of stick out. So invert, so shift is inverting it. Okay, now other stuff is, if you want to make a selection with this, if you hold control down and then with the brush the size it is, you select an area of influence, that area now is the only area that will be influenced. So if I was like to say, okay, I want to start digging into certain areas and stuff, it's only going to do it inside the area of influence. On the outside area, you're not getting it happening. If you hold down Shift and Control, this deselects everything you've selected, or you can just clear the selection. You can loop expand, but if you're going to loop expand, what you need to do is have a loop. So for instance, you need to have an amount of, let's say, those kind of a line of points, let's say, so then it will loop and start looping in different ways, kind of stuff. Okay, so again, size my brush up, I can hold Control and Shift, and then you can deselect all the actual other elements that you've selected, like so. And again, you've got the other tools, so you've got groove or grooving, and again, let's just make it a bit smaller, and let's just, and then I can keep going on, or I can size the brush down a little bit, hold Shift and do it the opposite way around. So again, all these tools, I'll not go through them all. You've got the smooth option, which smooths the actual area back to its original state, so you'll see them moving into place, look, like so. And again, you've got all these other options for moving, rotate, stretch and so on. However, in the actual documentation, which I'll just bring up, so there's this statement here: for use with polygon geometry, not subpatch. You can still use it on subpatch models, but only the base mesh will be affected. So this isn't subpatched. Okay, so let me just shut this down and get out of it. And let's go to model and subpatch it. Okay, and let's have a look now. So we've got a lot more. However, it's still adding the extra geometry if you subpatched into that base model. So let's go back to modify weight brush. Let's go back to like push and pull. It's an easy one to use. And let's show you what I mean. So this is moving the actual points or normals of the original base mesh, but you've got your subpatch incorporated over the top. So obviously, because those extra polys are attached, or let's say to the actual original model, they're actually following the same access anyway. So it isn't like a statement that says it doesn't work. It's just it only manipulates the base model. But you so if this was like subpatch, so it's not, well, it is subpatch, but it's not moving the extra points, it's just moving the base model of it. So, but it still, to me, looks cool. So, I mean, in the future, this might have the option to use it on, and I'm guessing it will do on subtyped objects, but currently it's the base model only. But yeah, looking down the rest of the options, like I say, you've got contract. So again, that's deselect contract in, or you've got expand to select more, and so on. Like for that, you've got the clear the selection, your loop selection, undo, redo, the brush size, the marker size, like I said, how big the actual markers of each kind of point is going to show up, and then you've got the command for creating new. So you can create another one on top, kind of thing. So do you want to clear the map? No, I just want to add some more stuff on top of the one I've kind of got. So let's just quickly, oops, / drops the selection. I should have said that actually. Add this, yeah, like so. So again, you can see I'm just really just ramping stuff up. So again, there's the first one, there's the second one. So if I save this, save all, let's go into model it, and here's our ground plane without obviously the sculpting bits in it. So that's because they're actually held under the vertex map. Here, look. Okay. So what you can do is, if you wanted to, you could just simply go up to the maps, and if you go across to where it says morph, you can apply, choose the one you want, and just press OK, and it will add it, and that's that's added to the model you've got. So you could do that if you wanted to create some kind of basic land and stuff, but you can also use this for whatever model you kind of want, really. So let me just undo that because I don't want that. But yeah, so going back to the actual displacement brush again, you can build this up and can have more than one morphs on top, and obviously under the next tab, the keyframe one, we'll talk about how we can make morphs to animate the actual displacement brush. So let's jump over to the keyframe and go through that tab. Okay, so we'll click on the keyframe, and what you've got is we'll have a list of all the maps here. You can have up to 10 maps, so we'll just stick with one, it's easier. And obviously we're at the timeline here, we're on frame 0, a keyframe, and the value is 1, which is 100% basically. So if I put that to 0, move my timeline to frame 30 maybe, and let's put in 1. So what it's done is automatically animated that from 0 to 30. So if I just drag it, you can see. I'll press play. You can see it animating to 30, like so. If you bring your graph editor up, it'd help if I was on the model. And there's the displacement here. Look, so let's just, you can manipulate it into your graph editor. Let's just put a little ease in there, like so. So it slows it a little bit in. But you can, like I said, you can use this on like maybe fish, you know, you could use it on all sorts of stuff. I mean, this is like, again, version 1 of displacement. You've got your 100% and 0%, which is obviously 100% is 1, so you can automatically click these. I mean, if I wanted to, let's just delete this keyframe. Okay, let's just jump back into it. On frame 30, I could put 2 in. It's 200. It's going to be a lot deeper, obviously, so it's a lot stronger. So you can manipulate land growing over time as well. But you can also do this on models. I'm just showing you really simply on a flat plane, but you can also bring up characters and manipulate their cheeks puffing out, or you can use the tools under the edit here to move some of the actual and rotate like some of the actual eyebrows and so on under morphs. They're also listed in your morph maps as well. So if we come off of this, we go to properties. Let's go and bring up a morph mixer, and you can see here there's one endomorph, so it's here as well, so you can manipulate it in here as well. Do you know what I mean? However you kind of want. We can go backwards a little bit, that's quite cool. But yeah, it's in there as well under the actual morph mixer. So again, really straightforward to how you use it and stuff. But again, you can have multiple morphs on this. So let me just quickly, what I'm going to do is create a couple more morphs, and then so we'll jump back to that ready to show you multiple morphs. So I've switched to this model instead of the land model, just to maybe show you how else you can do stuff. So going back to actually using the keyframes and stuff, I've created these three maps here that I've used a displacement brush, and if I just move along, you can see I've animated the eye and the mouth and the other eye as well. And again, all I did for this is I literally zoomed in, sized the brush up, and then just selected by holding control what actual parts of the actual model I wanted to kind of manipulate, like so. And then again under here just made it so on the first key it was 0, and on the end key it was actually 1. Then what you do is you go into the graph editor, which has your displacements here, and then you can animate them the way you want them by just manipulating the keyframe. So if you look at the actual this keyframe, and you've got this keyframe, so the second head displacement is the other eye, which if you look isn't animated, it's just one, and then I've got this weird kind of thing going off with the mouth, but the keyframe for it's here, so I could pull it up, so maybe both eyes are closing. But it's as easy as that. Once you've got the graphs and that, you can do what you want with it, kind of thing. And it's just literally pushing and pulling the points in position from one to another. But yes, I'm using 0 to 20, but once I've got that basic keyframe added to here, I can just manipulate it the way I want, kind of thing. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this. When it comes to the actual displacement maps here, look, so here's my 3 displacement maps, and then there's one that says all that I've just named. So when you start creating displacement maps, you can't actually rename them. You can rename the morphs. So I haven't created any more morphs. What it does, it automatically creates one morph from the very first displacement map. And let's say, for instance, so on here I've got 3 displacement maps. They're all part of this one morph, which you can rename. So you can create, again, 10 morphs maybe, and you can rename them all. But currently with the displacements, you can't give them a rename, which we obviously, hopefully in version 2, you will be able to do that. So if you're wondering why, so for instance, if I want to rename this, you get this little message here. But hopefully in version 2 you will be able to rename them. But like I said, with the actual morphs, and if I had multiple morphs, if I want to rename, you can just rename it. So they just be clear that. So if I've just realised that I should have mentioned that a bit earlier. That obviously these 3 displacements make up this one morph. If you want to create more morphs, you will. So if you actually go into your properties and your motion mixer and you're thinking, why is there only one morph when I've got 3 what you think is morphs, but they're not, they're the 3 displacements you've created. There's only one morph. You have to create more morphs in the actual displacement to kind of be able to start using them and stuff. So just a little tip there if you're unsure. So if we go back to the displacement brush options, and we've just gone through edit, we've gone keyframes, and next we're on to the numerical panel. So with the numerical, you've got this, obviously based on what tools you're on is what actual numerical panels will come unlocked. So for instance, let's just keep this simple. So with the move, let's say for instance I wanted to select the points of this iris here, and I wanted them to move to the right by so far. So you can see here I've done it before, 20 mil, but I also want it to go back slightly so it don't pop out his head. And I wanted to make that as a displacement map move that's moving, so his eye can look like it's his iris can look like it's going and looking to the right. So what I would do is go to edit, create a new map. We don't click clear because we don't want to clear anything. It gives you this new map. We can zoom in. Let's resize the brush so it's fairly small. Hold control, and then let's just select the actual points that make up most of this. So let's say that I might have just not been able to got the others. And then let's go to numerical, and I'm going to say that I want to move it 20 millimeters to the X, but also go back slightly. And you click apply, and obviously it's moved it across, and it's moved it back slightly so it's not going to poke through the actual eyelid like so. Then if we go to keyframe, it's added it here, 0 at the beginning. So let's say by the time it gets to frame 10, we want it to be 100%. So basically what that'll do is it'll kind of move it slightly. I mean, you could make sets of actual selections of this, and you can make the whole eye kind of rotate, but I just wanted to show you quickly again. And it's same with the other options on here. So we've rotated, select it, and then you use your kind of options to rotate it. You've got the rotate here, so move and rotate, and again with the scale, push. Now there is one that says collision effects on here as well, so let's have a quick look at that, and then we've just about covered everything as a basic. So let's just clear this. Okay, so let's just add some geometry. So we'll add a cube, and we'll give it some segments. Okay, like so. I'm not going to save it. So what we've got is this, and if we just have a look at the geometry, that's what you kind of got. And then we'll go to item tab, add a null, call it ball, and under edit, let's just make it a ball. Press OK. So let's just now move it out so it's intersecting a little bit, like so. So what I want to do is I want to make the actual null a collision object, and then the box a displacement. So with the actual null selected, we go to properties, under effects, add effect, collision, double click. So obviously it's the radius is 1 meter, so we need it to be 500 millimeters, so it's from the same as the ball, from the center of the ball. We can leave everything else the same actually, and then we'll select the box, go to modify, displacement. Do you want to create a new displacement? Yes, I do. And here's our new displacement, and it's here, look. So let's go to numerical, and we'll go to collision effects, and then click apply. So what it's done now, it's used that collision to kind of cut into or push into the geometry of the actual box. And obviously under the keyframe you get your keyframe. So for instance on frame 0, should we say, if we put in 0, let's move our timeline along to say frame, I don't know, 20. We're going to use the keyframe there, and let's put 1 in, like so. And then you've got it animated like so. So again, version 1, very simple, but it's still cool. I mean, you can use it to do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so without kind of babbling on too much, because I've gone through each section, but again, use the online docs and just play around with it basically, and see how you get on, because it's pretty cool, and there's lots of stuff you can do with it. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks for listening.